Should we get it kick started? Okay, so for the lightning round, Rodney, you're up first. I'll kind of be the timekeeper. So once you get started, I'll start the timer, and I guess I will call out at 5 minutes. We don't have to end right at 5, but I guess I'll call out at 5, which will kind of be the signal to start wrapping it up, and I'll call out at 7 again, and that's kind of really the point where we need to stop and move on. So
you're done.
You're done.
Good. That's good news because I haven't been able to get it under 5, but it has been under 7. So
okay.
So
and I think 8 will be the absolute you're done. But
if I'm still talking at 8, you should cut me off. So
okay.
Cue up the music then.
Yeah.
Get you off stage.
And just so everyone knows too, this is something new we're trying. These are just topics that people have brought up, but there's no way it would last an hour in a breakout session. So these are just little 5-minute things. If it's something you want to keep talking about with somebody, grab a conference room later on and you can further discuss at that point. So.
And just a reminder for the Lightning Talk presenters, the order is Rodney, Paul, Tim, Dana, Asa, Pete, and Tom Hill. So with that, go for it, Rodney.
Okay, well, trying to make this work here. I'm not a real comfortable Zoom user, so this is great. So I want to talk about the history of the MCUAV group. So how did we get started? There's a number of us were members of CCUMC. Many of you know that organization. And at our national conferences, we would always talk and we'd say, well, wouldn't it be neat if we could do something like this locally? And we talked like that for probably at least 3 years that we kept saying, wouldn't this be nice? And of course, we never pulled it off. So Jim Perrett, with encouragement from his administration, really was the one that really gave us the kick to get us going. And so in 2014, we began. So what were we thinking? Well, if anybody knows Jim, Jim's idea of this would be, well, let's just get a keg of beer and find a place and we can all get together and commiserate and share ideas. But of course, we didn't think that most of our schools would go along with that kind of an idea. So we did definitely had to change what we were thinking. So in 2014, Carleton opened their doors to us. And on March 14th, we held the first in-person Midwest College University AV Summit. That was a regional summit. We reached out to the 5-state area around Minnesota, contacting schools, inviting people. And we based it, what we were doing, we based it very similarly to how a CCUMC conference might run. It was a one-day event. We had 29 schools represented that first time. So we had a keynote, we would do small group discussions. Back then we did a panel discussion, even so up in the upper right corner there, we were talking about lecture capture, and then we were doing presentations. So there's the folks from the University of Minnesota talking about their active learning classrooms. So it was very successful, so we thought we'd keep it going. So in 2015, we went up to St. Cloud State and very similarly ran with keynotes and small groups. We're really trying to have a conversation is really what the idea of this is. 2016, we went to that active learning classrooms that the University of Minnesota was talking about, so they were able to host us there. There's pictured there as the planning group for that. We always would include somebody from the university that was hosting us in the planning group. We always like to do classroom tours, so we all like to see what everybody's doing. So we toured the nursing sim labs at the University of Minnesota and we toured some of their distance learning classes as well. Then in 2017, we went to my school, went to St. Catherine University. One of our goals with this was to really reach out to the small schools. So the big schools, they have a travel budget, they can do this kind of stuff, but the small schools, the two-year colleges, the small private colleges don't have a travel budget, and we really wanted to include them in this. So in 2018, St. Paul College, a two-year technical school, hosted us. And unfortunately, I don't have any pictures of that event, but believe me, it was just like anywhere else that we went. So it was really a fun event. 2019, we went to Winona State. We actually did that a little differently. We made that a two-day event. And so St. Mary's University is just up the hill from Winona. And we went and we did classroom tours at St. Mary's University. And then the next day, then we all convened at Winona State. And Joe Way, many of you would recognize him, did our keynote there. One thing I want to say, you can see the one slide there with our vendors logos up there. One of the things that makes us really successful is a partnership with our vendors. So we don't charge very much to attend the in-person, and this event is free. And we're able to do that because of the support that we get from our vendors. So if you see a vendor, thank them for the support that they give us. Beyond learning, we just get to know each other.
5 minutes, Rodney.
Thank you, sir. So we get to know each other, and that's really important. We always have some time for food and another opportunity to know each other. And of course, what would be an event without door prizes? So again, the door prizes, thanks to our vendors, we have those door prizes. 2020, we were all set to go to Augsburg University, right on the edge of downtown Minneapolis. And then at the very last minute, I mean, literally the very last minute, we had to cancel that. We were going to be going there in March, and COVID was really just striking, and we couldn't do it. Then we had planned 2021, it was already planned. We were going to go to the University of Wisconsin, Eau Claire. Again, this event isn't substitute for that. So we still hope to get to Eau Claire, but this is what we're doing in lieu of that. Really, COVID has really driven us to think outside the box, and so continuing the conversations many of you participate in, and all of you are welcome to. We do that on a bi-weekly time schedule. So many of you that are seeing on the screen right now are in these screen captures here. So picking a topic and talking about that. So that's been just great. And finally, this year, 2021 on January 28th, we became official. We really were very loosely organized. If you had attended any of our planning meetings, you'd wonder how we ever pulled it off. But we were very, very dependent on Carleton College. They hosted our website, they hosted the listserv, they handled all of our money. And not a problem. They're still happy to do that, but we felt that rather than being so dependent on somebody working at Carleton College, that we should formalize it. And so we did. So on January 28th, we had our first official board meeting, and we are on track to become an official 501c3. I did, I'll wrap it up here, but I did see a lot of comments in the last breakout session. There's some comments that, well, I'm not really from the Midwest, but I'm happy to be here. We're happy you're here too. We really, in our early beginnings, we were a regional conference, in-person regional conference, but being in the cloud, we have certainly have expanded, and Paul's going to be talking a little more about that. So we're just welcome to everybody here, and thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rodney. And right at 8 minutes, so perfect. Okay, you're up next, Paul.
Thank you very much, Pete. Pete, you run a tight ship. I'm really appreciating that today. The timing is just perfect. It's wonderful. Okay, so can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, super. All right, I am going to enter present mode. There we go. So can everyone still see my screen? Good. Yep, super. Okay, so before there was just an email list. When we formalized our entity, we had a membership form, which I sent out to everybody on that email list, which resulted in 98 members as of this morning from 66 different institutions of higher education in 16 states of the Union and 3 countries. That's pretty great. As of last night, 165 people had registered, as you see, 19 states and 3 countries. 124 from institutions of higher education, and 41 of our partners in industry from 22 different vendor organizations signed up to be here today. So I'm excited about that. There'll be a link a couple times near the end. If you haven't joined and you'd like to, I'll put that URL up. And if any of my colleagues would be willing to put that in chat in the meantime, mcuav.org/join. What are we going to do? We're going to look at the story that some of our numbers might tell us. So in this membership survey, we asked some questions. You'll be familiar with them if you took the survey. And we're going to look at those. So leadership roles. We asked 4 different types of leadership role that someone might have. And here's the percentage of members who said they do that. Almost half of us supervise student workers. Makes sense. What departments do we serve? Half of us serve the entire institution that we work at, and a bunch of the rest of us serve a bunch of other departments, and these are the prevalent ones. You can see listed there. There are the other schools or organizations that make up 20% are other there. So how many people have how many primary AV responsibilities, right? We are multitaskers. We are multitaskers, right? If you're talking to any one of us about any one thing that we do, remember, we do an average of more than 3 other things in addition to that thing we're talking about right now. We are multitaskers. This is my favorite chart, actually. And what are those AV responsibilities? So lots and lots of people design or install or support classroom technology and or installed systems, or some combination of all 3 of those things. Half of all of us do live event support. More than 1/3 of us do production of some kind. More than 1/3 of us manage digital signage. Almost 1/3 of us run equipment checkout centers of some kind. More than 1/4 of us do broadcast and or cablecast and or live streaming. 1 out of 5 of us manage a studio of some kind or multiple studios. And a small but vibrant band of us love to run cinemas. I think that's almost exactly 5 of us right now. And what are the other responsibilities? I won't linger on this too long, but I wanted to make sure everybody's in there. And so you get a sense here of the breadth of responsibility, what we are asked to do by our institutions. Okay, so this is a fun Venn diagram, right? This is famous. You can have any 2, price or quality, quality or speed, right? And it's a really fun sidebar to imagine whether the intersect of price, quality, and speed doesn't exist or is just really, really elusive. So that's a Venn diagram, right? So fun question, what do you think the Venn diagram looks like of people who design, support, and or install classrooms and installed systems? It looks like this. All right, there's tremendous overlap. Right? It's almost the opposite of the price, quality, speed Venn diagram. Tremendous overlap. So 53 out of 78 people do all 3 of those things, right? So that's really interesting. I didn't know how together or separate that group of job duties was, and this Venn diagram answered that question. Down along the bottom is just another way to visualize the same thing. So you see lots and lots, each one of those columns is a person. You see lots and lots of people with a D, an I, and an S in their columns. And then what if you don't do design, support, or installation of classroom technology or installed systems? So here that's labeled E for everything else. And that's what this Venn diagram looks like. So again, there's a very large degree of intersection between these duties. So what AV systems do we manage?
Paul.
Thank you very much. Awesome. Video conferencing, lots of video conferencing, lecture capture, video and audio over IP. 2 out of 5 of us run a media asset management system and other, which I've listed below. Okay, if people manage an AV control system, which one is it? Here you go. There are a couple more that I think will appear maybe on next year's survey, a couple more control systems to talk about in future surveys, future versions of this. Topics of interest. So this is really, really helpful. I know that the Summit Planning Committee looked at these results and took them to heart planning the events today. And that's what you said. This is how it broke down. And I know that there are topics, there are breakout sessions on many of these topics today. And this could also guide what our biweekly calls are about. But so this is very interesting touchstone. And there's the other. Again, I won't linger too long on that at 5 minutes and counting, but that's what the other list looks like. All right, this is really fun. So 98 of us have 95 job titles. They're almost all unique job titles. There's only 3 job titles that 2 people share, and only 2 people share them. So, so then I was curious, well, what words appear in these job titles? And here's how that breaks down. And so if you abstract out words like director or coordinator, here's what that list looks like. No surprise, technology is in 1 out of 5 of our job titles. AV or audio visual, 14%. Classroom, services and support, 10%, and so forth. So this gives a little bit of a glimpse how we are named by our institutions. And more words in job titles. Zoom is now a word in job titles, no surprise there. And that brings me to the point where I say, if you haven't joined, please visit mcuav.org/join. It won't take you too long. I won't mind if you do it now during our Q&A, that'd be just fine. If you want to make a note and do it later, that's fine too.
Okay.
So we do.
We're about out of time, Paul.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, Tim, you are up.
Oh, I'm muted there. All right, so this, everyone see?
Yes.
Oh, my computer is running slow. Everyone sees PowerPoint?
Yes.
There she went. So here's what we did. This is pretty crude, everything, I get it, but I just thought it was pretty neat, and it really serves a very good purpose, especially where we're using this. This is a wireless / mobile, whatever you want to call it, camera. We actually call this thing a bucket camera because the dang camera sits in a 5-gallon bucket pail that's on wheels. So it's just a mic stand. That thing can be rolled around the room. And what's nice is right there, that little black, I'll have another picture of it. That's a little battery pack on there. So this thing is even powered. We don't know the runtime of it yet. They haven't told us, well, they haven't told us that they ran out of power yet, but so I don't know how long I'll go for, but what it is, there's a little battery pack on there. This white is actually an HDMI. This is actually a wireless HDMI. The receiver's at the rack. You can see the little power pack there. That little wireless HDMI, it's surprising how well it works. And then we just got a GoPro sitting at the top. All this, again, this is a mic stand, GoPro at the top. It's an HDMI going down into it. And then the power for the GoPro plugs right into that that power box, you know, whatever you want to call that thing. And it sends back, and basically now we use it in an anatomy lab. Now, instead of trying to get, you know, 20 students around a cadaver to show something, the faculty member can grab that camera, wheel it over, do what they need to do, and it shows up on the projector so everyone can see. We also have a Magewell that we've had really good luck with, HDMI to USB, put that right into the computer, and now we can even use it for distance learning if somebody can't be there. So nice little deal. One thing too, with the not having the power or any cords or nothing, I mean, it's anatomy lab. Who knows what gets on the floor? Can't imagine. So everything's clean. Don't have to worry about cleaning or having cords around the floor. Who knows what's on the floor? And if the GoPro, you know, hose the thing down, it won't matter. So very successful. Faculty like it. Easy to use. It's a controlled environment, so they just got to know when they're done using it. They go and they plug it in and make sure to charge the battery pack when they're done, and they come to class the next day and they're good to go. So mine's nice and short, nice and easy, but it's worked very well for us, and just thought I'd get out there and show it.
We have about a minute. We have about a minute and a half for questions if we want.
What was the cost to set up that unit?
Whoa, man. Well, we had the mic stand already. So I think right off the top of my head, I should have known this doing a presentation on it. Dang it. I think it was about $1,000 when you talk about the wireless HDMI, the GoPro, the battery pack, everything. I think it was just under that.
Someone is asking Tim for a parts list in the chat. Can you make that available at some point?
So Tim, is the HDMI extender being powered by that battery pack with the GoPro also?
Correct.
Excellent.
Yeah. I don't know. I forgot to check with the, dang it. Man, I'm so not prepared. I forgot to check what the power rating on that battery was, but that dang thing has a little connection on it. You can jumpstart your car with it too. So we obviously didn't put those cables on there, but so she's got some juice to her. So it's doing, and it's nice and small. Oh, and that little stand that they're on, that's just like a little music note stand for a mic stand. So it's specifically made for it. I think you put your music books on it or whatever, but it works perfect to keep the gear right there. So
very nice.
Okay, that's sorry, we're at the 5-minute mark, so let's.
Oh, I'm out of time.
You're off the hook, Tim. let's move on to Dana.
Okay, looking for my pictures here. All right, I'm going to talk today about probably one of the lower tech things that we deal with, and that's projection screens, and specifically older projection screens. The older ones were more prone to accumulating this sticky substance on them. The material was different that they were made out of, and they would get, it would feel almost like a Post-it note stick-em on them over time. And I'm talking about 15, 20-year-old screens or older. This is one of the two that we've cleaned. And why haven't we replaced these screens? Well, because they're usually the bigger motorized ones or the permanently tensioned larger screens that we are expensive to replace. They're a pain to replace, and they're otherwise perfectly good screens yet. And so what can you do with them? Well, let's see. There's another one that was doing this. This stickum that it accumulates, but then when you shine a projector at it, it puts this shadowy haze on the image. It seems like, and there are spots that actually look dirty because the lint accumulates on it. I know that everybody every school has got a couple of these screens. So that's why I wanted to talk about it today. We cleaned them, and this is how we did it. Went to Menards, picked up window cleaning equipment. Now, hey, if you do this, you're saving your school thousands of dollars over having to replace the screen. So spend some money on it. Spend 40, 50 bucks on this. Get the nice telescoping wand, get the wider blade, and so forth. The soap we used was Simple Green, which was a soap that was recommended to me by a screen company to clean this. You can get it in a spray bottle, or you can get it in the concentrate and mix it up and sponge it on. It helps to have some help and another person with you to do this. One person to do the sponging and applying of the soap, and one person to do the squeegeeing. We put down some cardboard. You can put down some towels or something underneath it to catch the soapy dump. Oh, and by the way, the custodians, they want nothing to do with your little project. So don't even ask them. Just go ahead and do this yourself. And basically just apply the soap, spray it on, wipe it on, leave it for a minute, and squeegee it down. And do this. And so you're going to do this a number of times, right? We went over the screen a couple of times, and then we turned on the projector. And when you turn on the projector, you can, after you've gone over the screen a couple of times, you're going to start to see lines and squiggles on the screen. And you think, oh my gosh, if I scratched the screen, have I ruined it? No, you haven't ruined it. You're just kind of rearranging the gunk at this point. And so you just keep going over it. And you might go over this 5 or 6 times before you start to see a really nice, before the lines start to go away and you start to see a really nice looking screen again. And then touch it up a little bit and stellar supervisory skills are always important too. But yeah, when you're done with it, then you've saved yourself a lot of headache of replacing the screen. You might ask why this one is so wide. This goes back 20 years in the days when they had side-by-side slide projectors.
5 minutes, Dana.
Okay. But it's a perfectly good screen yet, so why replace it? That's all I had. Hope it helps somebody out. I know I've seen screens like this at other schools, so I know you've got them there. But are there any questions?
Which kind of screen was it again?
Which kind of screen? This could be any screen. It's the older. I'm told by the screen companies that it's older material that they used to use that was susceptible to accumulating this stickum on it. And I don't know what causes it. It could be a permanently tensioned screen. It could be a motorized screen. I don't really know any more than that. But
yeah, did you try cleaning any of the hanging screens like that?
Yes, yeah, that first screen I showed.
Yeah,
I did clean that one, and yeah, I mean, yeah, it moves around a little bit, but these screens are really noticeable when not only do you see it on the image, but you hear it every time the screen comes down, because the screen, both sides of the screen material are sticky, and it's every time it comes down, it's unsticking itself. And so we clean both sides of the screen in that case.
Were they daylight screens?
We're
Let's
at
see.
7 minutes, Dana.
This
Sorry.
is, I think this one here was a Stewart screen. You know, the older screens, it's really hard to find a brand on some of them even. I think this was a Stewart screen, but not even sure. And I don't think it's even brand specific. I've seen it happen on.
Daylight had a batch about 8 years ago. We had to swap all of them out in a building project we did. They all just started sticking and they wouldn't roll down anymore. And we tried Simple Green, but we never got the goo off to make it work.
Yeah, the trick is just to do it enough times, just to go over it enough times. And so you'll put an hour or two into a bigger screen like that, but it's worth it.
On that Daylight issue, I was going to say, we fought with them for about 6 months. We finally got them to replace a dozen screens that we had that issue on. It was a fire retardant application that they had on it. So I don't know if any other manufacturers had it, but we finally got them to do the right thing.
Okay. Thank you. We're at the 8-minute mark. So thank you, Dana. Asa, you're up.
Okay, hello, good morning.
Morning.
I'm going to talk about a recent virtual sales conference that we did. It's the 5th or 6th annual, and all of the others, of course, were done in person. We had little conference rooms. We used MediaSite recorders, and everything was scheduled. Kids go in, talk to the sales or the potential customer for 15 minutes, and it's all recorded, and people are watching live via MediaSite in another room to judge them. This year, that obviously didn't happen because we couldn't have people in rooms. So it was all on Zoom, as obviously we're all used to doing everything on Zoom these days. So they had 5 or 6 Zoom rooms with moderators and the judges that were in the rooms and just silent. And the buyer and the sales student competitor would join the room and chat for 15 minutes on Zoom, and that was the equivalent of the same thing. So the moderator would give them the little, you've got 1 minute left kind of sign, and handle the recording. So we recorded all of them to the cloud, and MediaSite, I don't know how many people here use MediaSite or Zoom, but I'm going to guess that it's at least some. So MediaSite has an app that will copy all of the Zoom cloud recordings into MediaSite and tag them and brings the captions along and everything. So it's designed to work with an LMS. So we have it integrated with our LMS so faculty can put the course code into their Zoom meeting, and it will automatically put it in the catalog in the LMS course. But I use that same function. It doesn't have to be a course code. You can make any random amount of text the module ID. So I'm going to share my screen here, and you should be seeing Edge now. And so we added these 2 fields to the bottom of this is just the normal meeting create thing that everybody has access to. And everyone now has the option to copy to MediaSite, and they say yes, and they can. We branded our Brightspace as BOLT, Bloomsburg Online Learning and Teaching, just so that it's not D2L. So by default, it's for most faculty, they're just pulling the course number out of that. But for this, I created a new module called Sales, and that module is then created in the MediaSite side. You can create a module with anything. The system automatically generates the ones that are course-based, but I created this one specifically for this event. And you can give it a description name. Nobody really sees any of that stuff. And then you can tell it that you want to associate it with a folder. So I created a folder called Zoom Import. The step before that is the actual import function of Zoom, of MediaSite pulling the Zoom project in. And in the probably, I think it was just before the semester started, so 3 months that we've had this running, it has imported 2,130 presentations. I'm just now noticing that it says 30 failed, so I'm gonna have to look at that. But it's, a lot of people are using this. So once it, the Zoom thing is getting in the way. So once it imports and it's tagged with that module, everything comes into this folder. So that event recorded 71 little 11 to 20 minute segments. And each of these is a student. The coordinator's GA is going to go through here eventually and rename these with the students' names so that they show up nicely. This was just a week and a half ago, so they haven't needed anything for it yet. We can, right, the 8th, that was, yeah, recently. So they're going to make it a little prettier, but that folder then goes into a MediaSite showcase and a specific channel. I created a channel just before this to show the whole Zoom import folder, which is
5 minutes, Asa.
Okay, cool. Which is here. And then you see all of the students and their presentations. And you can scroll through and find who you need, and there's a search function too. So there's, it worked perfectly well. And they will eventually, the recordings are mostly for the students to go back and look and see how well they did. And use for resume building, I suppose. And this catalog also has the archives of all the previous ones too. So if you go back and look at last year, the previous year, you can see they were in a conference room and same concept though, just selling stuff. So that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about, is just the automagicness of Zoom feeding into MediaSite and going into the right folder, and it sets all the permissions. It brings along the closed captioning, the automatic transcription that Zoom creates anyway. So are there any questions?
We got about a minute if anybody wants to ask.
Is there a place that I could go to learn more about this initial concept in general and how this setup works? Maybe we could talk offline or something, but I'm just curious. It's really the first time I'm seeing something like this.
Are you a MediaSite user?
No.
Okay. Yes, I mean, I'll put my emails in the chat there.
Cool.
So yeah, go ahead and email me. I mean, MediaSite is a pretty expansive platform. It can do a whole lot of stuff. Are you asking because you do, like you want to do something like this for a sales competition, or what kind of event are you thinking?
I'm just observing right now, so kind of learning what tools that you work with on a regular basis.
Right. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. I can connect you with the right people.
Thank you.
To talk a little more. Yep.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Asa. Next up is Pete, all the way from Belgium. Ooh.
Just a minute. Do you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Piet Bonte. I'm a EdTech coordinator in the campus of Leuven University. That's Flanders, Belgium. I'm also a member of the EduLab team, and I'm situated here at the bottom. So KU Leuven is one of Europe's oldest universities and is situated in Flanders and consists of campuses spread across 9 cities in Flanders, which is the northern part of Belgium. To give you an idea about the scale of Flanders, the distance between Leuven, which is situated here, and Culac, Kortrijk, here is about 75 miles. So one of the challenges is the transition from one location to multi-location. In 2016, we collaborated with 2 EdTech industry partners, Barco and Televic Education, which resulted in a hybrid virtual classroom setup. The project was called TECOL, which stands for Technology Enhanced Collaborative and Online Learning. There you see the website. It has been set up in a close collaboration between academic and industry partners. It has been systematically evaluated by all stakeholders. So this resulted in the WeConnect solution. The research we do is evidence and experience based, and the purpose was to enhance the impact on students and teachers. The Lecture Plus project was a 2-year research program which looked at the following settings. First, we had face-to-face without remote students. Then we did the same lessons, but pure virtual. And finally, in a hybrid setting, the different settings were done during a whole semester, and students were switched between groups every week. So the measurements were done by an engagement meter, which was developed by Televic, one of the industry partners, and also student inquiries. We see that there is no difference in intrinsic motivation of face-to-face or pure virtual, also not in the hybrid version with students in the room, so the face-to-face and the hybrid situation. But we see there is a problem with the intrinsic motivation of the remote students during a hybrid session. So to engage more the online students, they have to be triggered by polls or quizzes. The WeConnect platform supports on-the-fly quizzing and polls, which means that preparation in advance is not needed. Quizzes and polls launched during sessions make sure that students are more engaged. And then that's how it's displayed in the room. So in this picture, you see the difference between this platform and, for instance, a web conference system. Every display has an own interlock behind to handle the AV streams, which results in a better quality of the audio and the video. You can also connect a webcam on every screen, so the students can choose between the multiple video streams. They can also choose to see the whiteboard or the presentation. So it's not in the hands of the teacher. Also, hand raising and polls are very visible in the room, as you see. We're also experimenting with other setups, like more bigger rooms. This room is very popular in COVID times because we can, there is, for the moment, 20% of the students can go in the room itself physically. So this room has normally 250 seats. Now there can be 50 students in the room and 64 online.
We're at the 5-minute mark, Pete.
Okay, I'm almost finished. Here is another room setup, which is also very popular in COVID times. It's all hybrid. We also experimenting with other platforms like Teams to be able to compare it with our WeConnect platform. So our approach seems to be liked also by the industry. Last year we won the UNIS Award for the best AV-enabled education space. So that was it. If you want to explore EduLab online, there is a virtual tour also. And there is an article we wrote how we changed our collaboration rooms into virtual classrooms during COVID times. If you have questions, feel free to ask. Thank you very much.
So you said each display has its own internet connection?
Yes, that's right.
How much bandwidth are you using?
I didn't understand that.
How much bandwidth are you using to reach that? You don't know?
I don't have any idea.
That's fine.
No. We have yeah, a bit. No, the bandwidth is necessary with in the cloud. It's a cloud solution. Okay. So it's only the NUCs in the room who are making contact with the cloud. So
okay.
Okay, we're about out of time. So thank you, Pete. That's an impressive lab there. You've showed it to us before, so it's good to see you again.
Okay.
So Tom, take us home to lunch.
I have to remove my presentation, I think, but I don't find it. Oh, here. Oh, sorry.
There you go. Now you can hear me. I think I can force that to stop there. I honestly don't know how I can go up against that. That was pretty amazing. Thank you very much. We're going to talk a little bit about what we did here. Back about a year ago, it kind of got dropped on us that we were going to put in an esports down in our student union, the Crisco Commons. So we began the design work and everything else. So I'm just going to kind of cover that a little bit. So first off, I've got a few pictures here of what it looks like from the finished product. But we ended up with the space. We've got space for people to plug in individual things. You can see a student in here working. Everybody can look in and see what's happening inside the space. It was originally designed to seat about 18 people. I think Joe Gunderson's out there and he can pop in if I misspeak myself, like things like who did all the work, which was Joe who did all the work. They pared it down a bit for doing with the COVID. Any of the individual displays can be put up on any of the other screens inside the space. The whole back end for this was done with Crestron's NBX for multicasting. In fact, that building has a number of NBX systems in it that we're looking to link together. It's been used successfully. People are sharing their screens in there. They're able to push it off into the recording site for Twitch and things like that. If I pop back over here, I got way too many windows open on my desktop right now. Hold on. I go back to here. And there we go. The final design, which was here. We had it up and running just before classes started. The longest part was some of the furniture. The workstations were installed late in the fall last year, and they started using from there. Joe, do you have any comments? I know you're there because I can see you on your headphones.
Well, that pretty much covers it. I mean, it was built to support 18 gaming stations. We cut back due to the body restrictions within the space. So now there's about half, or actually maybe a little less, but we installed the infrastructure to support the expansion as the restrictions are lifted. And as popularity grows with the space. So yeah, it turned out pretty good. yeah, like Tom said, you can send any of the stations anywhere. We have built-in AV streaming, not using NVX, but using our standard TXRX type of streaming, so that this space you can select any of the stations to be viewed at pretty much anywhere on our campus. We have a few designated areas that they typically set it up for overflow in our student activity center or in like our East room. We're currently working on a design for their cafe area where we're going to be adding a handful of displays with cable television and signage. And then on nights where there's a gaming tournament, they'll be able to tune into this esports lounge using the NVX as they stream the solution. So it'll be a direct feed into these other spaces at that point.
This was something we entirely designed here ourselves, and Joe was instrumental with the programming and the installation. It's been quite a success. It's been used quite a bit, and it's being used more and more as they gear up for more of the things and more people on campus. I was surprised at the amount of interest there was in it, and I was happy to be proved wrong that it's been a very big success and people are happy using it. For anybody else that's looking at those spaces, it's a lot of work, but it comes off working really well. And it's a nice collaborative project with the IT people. They took care of the workstation installations. They've got a back-end management for all the games that exist on it. So we don't have to worry about anything. They have put security cameras to make sure people aren't walking off with mice, keyboard, monitors, workstations, or anything else with that. Any questions? Is anybody else doing any of the esports out there? How involved are you with it for what's going on? Yes, I would be happy to share that with you. I think we've actually inside Crisco Commons, we have three spaces, right, Joe, that are using the NVX. We actually hoping to use this as a model that we can run a backbone of the multicast across there, and it gives you a huge amount of flexibility for routing. You don't need massive switches anymore, and we can go through that.
Yeah, within the last, say, year, we installed quite a bit of NVX in the Student Union's East Room, which is like our ballroom on campus. It's the backbone for this esports space. We also used it for our nursing sim lab. That was a pretty big undertaking, a lot of components in that system as well.
Hey, Joe and Tom, have you run across any discernible latency by using NVX, or has that been pretty solid? Obviously, that's always a sticky point in these environments. Yeah,
the NVX is actually almost zero latency. The latency we're seeing in the displays themselves. I watched a video now. Of course, it's one of their, we do it better videos, but where the latency was, very minimal, with a slow motion camera on a timer screen. The students in this space, they're playing their games off of the local monitors. If you noticed from the black, I don't know if it shows it that Tom was sharing, but we're actually splitting the computer's output, feeding an HDMI to the NVX, and then direct HDMI to the local monitor at the computer station. So they're playing off the computer monitor. They're not relying on the, public displays, we'll call them. Those are there just to, catch other people's attention and, get people interested in that space.
We've been pretty happy with the NVX for the responsive. We originally using Crestron's DM series for the TX RXs and their RMC 100s for other things on campus. There's a lot of latency there, but the multicasting stuff has worked very well. We keep it on a separate network at this point, and we've been very happy with it.
But I was hoping you would say that.
Yeah, I think it's been working very well. We're looking at how we can break it out, because suddenly you don't need a big switch anymore, because now you're just switching the stream. It takes a lot of the cost out of it, and it helps balance that out and gives you a lot more expandability for what you might want to build into it. And it doesn't have to be located in one rack. You can have it strung out all over the place. We're working more with how we can expand that over in Crisco. We have a new building that's going to be coming online maybe in 3 years. We're looking at, we can put that in as a backbone for the infrastructure for all video. So that's what makes it really exciting.
Who knows what we'll have by 3 years from now. So
NVX will be old stuff by then. So.
Right.
Everything will be going wireless. So
God.
Don't tell the network people I said that, okay? Shh. They probably heard this already.
Hey, Tom and Joe, what were the chairs that you decided on? How did you decide that?
The furniture, the tables and chairs were, they had a small student committee to kind of pick and choose conceptual ideas, you know. In the end, it came down to price. So I think we worked with CDW to get an initial layout. And then I think we got a couple samples, and then they just kind of picked from those samples. I think the tables are a Spectrum table or a variation of. I've seen them before. If anyone else has been to like the Crestron trainings in Chicago or anything, it's the same tables they have with the cable tray and hideaway area behind the monitor. They're nice table, worked out good for this application. They're, you can height adjustable and all that. We lost some of that because we need to get power to areas that we couldn't, core holes and get powers under the tables or whatever. So we ended up strapping the tables together to, pass power using conduit, distribute it down the back sides of them. But yeah, it was a fun project. A lot of cables, a lot of naming, of all the components and things. But in the end, it actually, for the AV side of things, it didn't end up being overly expensive or, compared to some other spaces.
And we're running everything on the back end of this with the subnet. So we didn't have very many issues on the network. It gave us a nice level playing field to work in, except when we had something turned on wrong and the network people said, "Why did you bring down the building?" So it's very
allegedly.
Allegedly.
Typical network response, Tom. And I hope you bought Joe an eSports chair.
How are you? I'm in frantic mode right now.
Uh-oh.
I have a lot of things I got to get done, and I'm running out of time.
There. I muted that off. The importance of muting your microphone. It's been working very well, and the other places we put it in, we've been very pleased at the switching on it and the response of it. Sometimes it takes a little longer to switch, but it's working very well. So I think it would work well for the back end.
Now you can hear me. No, you can't hear me.
Any other questions?
Do you guys have your switches all centralized in wiring closets, or do you have some in, like, let's say your esports lab, do you have some locally in that rack?
For the esports lounge, that is a separate rack. In fact, to handle the gaming bandwidth, or the needed bandwidth for the gaming part of it, our local ISP installed their own network switch with a fiber link up to their, to the main drop. So the gaming side of the computers doesn't even touch our building network, which was per request on our networking side. So it wasn't reliant on, what that building has available. Keep that traffic completely separate. Obviously, I have a switch in that same cabinet distributing my AV VLAN for some of the things that I wanted to, reach from this side of the network, whereas all the MVX is living on the backside on the control subnet behind the AV system. As far as some of the other spaces go, Casey, this building has been getting quite a few updates, and we're starting to try to work with networking to utilize their closet space because we're becoming so dependent on network that, for instance, in the ballroom area, we're going to be adding another network rack just for the AV equipment, and hopefully distributing MVX throughout that floor using infrastructure that's already been pulled and things like that.
Yeah, just cooling alone for those switches. I mean, the wiring closet's going to be a better environment for them.
Right.
We've run into that a bit in the one space that we have done MVX. So